You just came from court.
But at the end of the day, it's all a lesson to be learned about everything.
So what happened?
So you think, you kind of feel really disappointed, isn't it? That you want to help and contribute,
Yeah.
and guess someone else in need, obviously, in tremendous need. But
You just came from court.
I have, yeah. And incidentally, first of all, thanks ever so much for having me here. I love sharing my journey, hopefully to inspire a lot of you listeners, because that is what it's all about, right? Your podcast is
Correct.
about inspiring people. So thanks ever so much for having me today, first of all.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been one of those days, funny days. So I've been a landlord for a number of years or decades. I've never been to court, trying to beat the tenant, but today was the day. I thought I'll go there, learn as much as I can, and I share my experience. So that's what I did. As soon as I got out of court, I did a live in Instagram and I share what I learned. It's always about sharing our journeys.
That's how I found out, actually. I was watching your live and I was like, oh, that's something great to discuss, you know. So what happened?
Right. Okay. So, well, I bought a flat on my old days when I was still working as an engineer. Started my property journey several decades ago, but I started as a hobby first. Yeah. So I started buying properties, leaving a lot of the deposit in, but accumulating as many as I could my own way because I stopped learning. So I bought this flat in Woolwich, really well located. I knew all about Crossrail being an engineer. So I got my hands in one unit just before the Crossrail was announced. And guess what? Exponentially grow. So I've been having tenants ever since. But on this occasion, I had one of those tenants that's been quite difficult. I did try to help this person during COVID. I was, helping her as much as I could, coming up with solutions, and she started paying some rent back, some arrears back. But then she started ignoring our phone calls and so on and so forth. So I had no choice but to evict her. So today was basically the court hearing. So I paid a really good company to do that for me. Always leave it to the professionals, my best advice. So we went through all the paperwork, everything that had to be done to get a successful outcome, and we got there in the end. So yeah, I was there this morning basically with that person that took me through all the whole thing, being in front of a judge and then hearing the whole thing, and have now got 14 days. That person has got 14 days to leave the flat, and so I can
Well done.
get a new tenant in there.
How long was the process for this whole thing?
Yeah, the process basically started. Once again, the tenant was in arrears, several hundred thousand, no hundred, £7,000 in arrears. So once they're in arrears, at least 2 months, then you can start the eviction process. Yeah. So you could do it by yourself. Okay, you can do Section 8, Section 20 by yourself, but I strongly advise you to get someone else that know what they're doing. Okay. And one of the shares this morning was that initially I trusted someone that was recommended by me, but someone else, sorry. And this company didn't know what they were doing. They give me sort of red lights, asking me questions. I'm like, you're the professional. Why are you asking me questions, sort of thing? So I decided to dig in a little bit further and then find another company that was a professional recommended by one of my mentors. And when I spoke to them, and obviously they basically said, look, we could do it, the whole process for you.
Yeah.
We take it from here till you recall, we support you. And, it was, plate sailing basically. And it wasn't that expensive, to be honest with you. The whole thing for the service that I've got was not that expensive. So yeah, they helped me throughout. They did all the paperwork for me, and here we are. We've got the flat back, and then in 14 days I can
Well
get a
done.
new tenant in that property.
Well done. I can relate to some of these cases, especially after COVID. There's so many people who couldn't afford, and then the court was closed. There was nothing to do. It was really horrible. But luckily, after you learn your lesson, you know exactly who to have in your property. But well, things can still go wrong sometimes. I'm having a situation right now where this tenant was all fine, amazing. During COVID, I think she lost it. She became really, really sensitive to everything, and it started affecting her mental health. And 2 or 3 months ago, she stopped paying the rent. So now we're with the antisocial behavior team, and everyone's in the building is literally just complaining about her.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So
Yeah.
I know how sometimes dragging
Mm.
one tenant can be. You know, your whole business just
Yeah.
depends on that one tenant.
Yeah.
Not because obviously the monetary value, but it's your energy,
Yeah.
the efforts you put.
Yeah. 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 It's hard. It's hard sometimes to
Yeah.
balance that. But at the end of the day, it's what a lesson to be learned about everything. You know, sometimes like expensive lessons like this ones.
Yeah.
But if you look at it just on that unit itself, the
Mm.
fact that I bought it at such a good time,
Mm.
you know, and I made an amazing the profit
Yep.
when we bought it.
Yeah.
It just pays for so many voids. So you need to look at the big picture sometimes.
True.
You know, obviously, as I said in one of my books, Property Metamorphosis, you got to do diligence on every single road. It's a microeconomy. I knew that property where it was located, it was an up and coming area that it was going to yield to me in the future, and I still have that property. You know, to be honest, even though it's a single let, I'm pretty much cash flow as a multi-let when it's rented. You know, so it's a
Wow.
great asset.
And what was the lesson you learned?
What are the lesson?
Yeah, you learned from this.
Right. So apart from the fact that, you know, get the right people to do the evictions for you, the other sort of expensive lesson is, you know, the communication with the tenant. You know, when you do the communication with the tenant, you know, they cannot really afford the rent, and they're not, you know, up in front with yourself, you know, honest with yourself. You just think and say, look, no, you cannot really afford the rent.
Yeah.
What if I just give you your deposit back?
Yeah.
Find a different place, and then, you know, we call it quits. Yeah. If I had done that, right, several months ago, I would have my property now, all right, and I wouldn't probably lost half or even less than what I lost now. I lost about 9,500 with no rent. So if I have done that at the beginning, saying, look, settle with them, give you the deposit back, yeah, find another property, that would have been easier. So for all you listeners, don't get into the court thing because it takes too long. You end up paying a lot of fees, and it is, as you said, energy. You don't get your time back.
Wow.
You know, so sometimes you gotta make those decisions at the right time. So if I went back, I would have done that.
Yeah. Have you had a situation where tenants do take advantage of you?
Yes, and it's hard. You know, I'm all about sharing as much as I can, right? So in our old days, we supported Culture Say Homeless Shelter, because we thought, well, is with our core values. It was my core values, and it's local, so then let's support them, right? So this organization does a great job. They give shelter for people that can't afford it.
Yeah.
And actually went there myself and made some food for all these, a few of the people there. And I met remarkable people there that were in a difficult place. You know, they couldn't really afford it, and it was great that they had this amazing help. So then the manager came to us and said, "Look, what if one of these people that are guests here rent one of your properties? What does he what do you need?" And I said, "Oh, well, as long as you think they're fit for living and sharing with other professionals, by all means, send them over." And she did that. So she sent us about 3 or 4 people. So we took them on board. Sadly, the worst decision ever. Because as you said earlier, some of them flipped, the majority, 3 out of the 4 flip. And they went back into their old habits of, you know, drugs, stuff like that. And it was hard to, you know, to kick them, even some of them without even the police, you know, was struggling, right? So you think, you kind of feel really disappointed, isn't it? That you want to help and contribute and guess someone else in need, obviously, in tremendous need, but then they pay you that way.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Sad and hard, but lesson learned, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think if it doesn't come with some of the obstacles, there's something wrong about it. There's always something to learn out of these situations.
Absolutely.
And you know, as much as you have someone guiding you or supporting you or showing you how to do it, you still have to go through some hiccups yourself. And that's what makes you stronger. And that's what defines the people who are going to quit. from the people who are going to continue and, you know, still see it as a lesson and just move forward. I want to thank you for tuning in and liking and being so engaging. I'm loving the love and the support you're showing me every single episode. If you have any questions, make sure you follow us on all our social media and leave all your comments and your burning questions in the comment section down below. If you're listening to us through the audio platforms, Spotify, iTunes, or if you're watching us on YouTube, do not forget to give us a subscribe. Thank you for tuning in to the Diaries of Success. I was your host, Hajar Beyaz. Until the next episode, do not forget to live your best life.